Hey friends, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing so well, and I'm very excited for today's video because we are taking a look at what has sold for me in 2022. If you guys don't know me, I am a full-time clothing reseller YouTuber who loves to take you guys thrifting, and then I resell the clothing that I find online for a profit, and it is so much fun. It's a great way to help the environment, and it's just a really amazing community that we have built here on YouTube and on Poshmark and on eBay and just like in this reselling community. So I love sharing what I find and my knowledge with you guys, which is why we're doing this video today, where I'm taking a look back at 2022 and seeing what pieces have sold for me really well this year, what brands have sold for me, what categories of pieces are doing really well and have made me a lot of money this year, so that you guys can learn from that too and take a look at not just your own numbers, but mine as well, to see what things are worth picking up and what things you're actually able to find at a thrift store that are worth really good money. So this is gonna be a fun video. Buckle up. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of pieces that are gonna be thrown your way, lots of new brands to know. So I'm really excited to share this video with you guys. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I pulled all of my sales from eBay, from Mercari, and from Poshmark, and we're gonna take a look at things that sold for a lot of money this year, and hopefully we all learn something along the way. So make sure to give today's video a thumbs up and also to hit the subscribe button if you like seeing these sorts of videos. But with no further ado, let's jump into what sold in 2022. So we're going to talk about some of my highest sales of this year. I'm also going to be filming a separate video where I talk about my favorite thrift finds of the year. And there might be some overlap in these videos, but there's also going to be some key differences, because just because I love a piece doesn't mean that it sold for a ton of money. But I was really excited to find some really cool pieces this year. So we're going to cover those in a different video. Today we're going to talk about things that sell for good money. So we're going to talk about some of my highest sales. The first big sale of this year, the highest sale that I made in 2022, was this vintage John Paul Gaultier dress. Now when I'm filming this, we have a few more days of December left, but I don't anticipate selling anything for $500 in the last few days of December probably. So this is probably going to come in at number 1 for the year, which it's this amazing vintage like phoenix and wave Japanese dress. If you guys have been around for a while and you guys saw when I picked this up, you will know I was beyond excited about it. This I listed for $800, which actually was not a bad sold comp. Something very similar had sold for that within a few days of when I listed this, but I got a $500 offer on Poshmark, and they authenticate for free if you sell something for $500 or more. So we went with it. $500 was an amazing sale. I paid $7 for this at a thrift store. And so we made $400 on that piece, and I sold within like 2 days of me listing it. So that was an amazing sale. Very happy with that. And then another really good and big sale was this New It Tags Christopher Kane women's chainmail lace dress. So this sold in July, and it was this gorgeous Christopher Kane dress that I also picked up at a thrift store. It must have been a huge donation by Christopher Kane itself to this thrift store, because there were so many dresses there from the same brand, all New It Tags. I listed it at $750. I sold it on Poshmark for $350, and we made $280. I paid $40 for the dress, which was expensive for a thrift store, but I knew it would sell for good money. It was designer. It was really pretty. It was super unique. So we made $240 on that dress, and I consider that a huge win. And then we sold this month. This sold so recently, and I'm so excited about it. This is such an exciting sale. It is this Gucci dress. I just talked about this, and it is so amazing. I found this in the bins. Yes, you heard me right. I found it in the Goodwill outlet. I found it and paid about $1 for it, and it was an Italian size 38. I believe it was from the Tom Ford era of Gucci. Like, it was an amazing find. I've had it listed for a year, probably, about maybe a little bit longer. And it finally sold on eBay for $350. It sold via promoted listing, which is not ideal, but what can you do? At least it's sold. It's no longer just sitting in my closet. I don't have just a Gucci dress laying around. It sold for $350, and I made $270 at the end of the day. So super high profit margin on that piece. To find anything for $1 and sell it for $350 is like absolutely insane. That is kind of the, the white unicorn of thrifting and selling. You're not always finding things like that, but I've been in the game and I've been at the bins long enough to have found some pieces like that. But it's consistency. It's going a lot, right? So those are some of the biggest pieces. I have one more really large sale too I want to share with you guys. It was a $200 sale on Mercari. It was this new without tags Mac de Gaulle split long sleeve faux wrap satin gown in size 14. I picked this up at Last Chance, which is the Nordstrom Rack clearance outlet. I picked it up in Chicago and I paid $60 for this dress. So definitely cost me a pretty penny, but I sold it for $200 within, I think, a couple weeks, maybe a few days. It was pretty short, but we sold it for $200, which means we made $173.90. So I made about $110 in net profit. So I count that as a win. But those were some of my biggest sales, and I sold quite a few things for $100 or more. And all of the things that I sell are thrifted. They're either from buy, sell, trade, or the bins, or Goodwill, or random thrift stores. And so I have a very unique business model where I don't pay very much usually for my pieces. The Last Chance sale was probably the one I've spent the most money on. But yeah, those are some of the highest sales. I have some other sales I'm going to talk about too that sold for over $100, but I also wanted to cover some categories of things that sold really well for me this year. And something that I think a lot of people will sleep on or will just not really pay too much attention to is vintage items. And I have sold so many amazing vintage items. I swear, any really cool knit or embroidered sweater or sweatshirt or a like very old like NFL or sports piece, those sell for me all the time. I don't sell knit sweaters that are vintage for less than $35 usually. Usually they go for that much at least. And then I have found some really unique vintage pieces that have sold for really good money. So I want to talk about a few of those because I think that that is a category that people will not pay as much attention to. And it's really, I find it a lot easier to find those sorts of pieces, especially in the bins or something like that, because most people are going to look right past them because they're old, you know, but old things still have value. Just because something is aged doesn't mean it's not valuable. So this piece I want to talk about is this vintage Oleana of Norway silk and wool knit sweater. It was a size medium, and I sold this for $79 on Mercari. And this was a vintage sweater and a really cool Norwegian piece that I picked up in the bins. So I paid probably $2 for this item, and it sold for $79. So we made $68.51. But the unique thing about this situation is the day I sent this out, so I think a day after this sold, I hadn't taken it down yet off of Poshmark, and I sold it full price, $120 on Poshmark. Now, I had to cancel that sale, but I think it's interesting to note, not only was it because of the brand Oleana of Norway, but it was also because it was vintage. It was a really cool vintage piece that most people looked over, but I thought it was really interesting, so I looked it up, and it was worth really good money. It's definitely worth looking into vintage pieces because some brands, especially, even if they're vintage, will do really well. So that piece was a really good vintage sale. And then I have some really unique vintage sales from eBay too. 3 out of my 4 highest pieces were all vintage finds. So my very first biggest sale on eBay was that Gucci dress that I talked about. But then I also just sold this the other day. It's a vintage 2001 NFL Baltimore Ravens, this coat. I actually picked this up at a church rummage sale for $5. And I sold it for $110 this week. So a $110 sale on eBay is gonna give me around $80 or $90 of profit, which is amazing. And again, this is a vintage coat, and a lot of people look past, especially, I'm gonna get into talking about sports things too. So this kind of fits in both categories. People will not pick up vintage items sometimes, but also a lot of people, especially, I don't wanna call us out too hard, but women, sometimes I will avoid picking up something about like from a sports team because I'm just not interested in that. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, but if you're not interested in sports, you can still pick up some really cool vintage sports things and sell them for good money. So those are definitely 2 categories that I sold a lot of good items from, and so I wanted to share that with you. So that coat sold for $110. And then this piece, another vintage piece, this is a vintage Adidas leather bomber jacket in a men's size large. I picked this up in the bins. Again, bins, guys, isn't that crazy? And it sold on eBay for $100. So $10 less than that vintage NFL piece, still an amazing sale. $100. I picked this up in the bins. I picked this up on the same day I picked up the vintage Oleana of Norway sweater. So that was a good day in the bins. But again, we're making probably about $75, $80 a profit from that piece I picked up in the bins because it was vintage. Vintage Adidas, vintage leather. Like, I pick up a lot of vintage leather and vintage leather pants that all sell for $50 to $75. But nobody else is picking up the vintage leather in the bins. That's a great place to pick up your leather. And then the last piece I wanted to talk about from eBay, which was vintage, was this amazing Neiman Marcus wool blend chore coat, which also sold recently for $99. So again, vintage, totally worth picking up. Leather, love picking up in the bins. And also vintage, even sportswear. It doesn't have to be vintage sportswear, but the vintage sportswear pieces will sell for more than the current ones unless they're new with tags, in my opinion. So here's another really good vintage piece. This is a sports piece and a vintage piece. It's a vintage Philadelphia Eagles NFL starter jacket in a size XL. Super cool piece. Again, I sold this for $80 on Poshmark. So $80 from that. So we made $64 in profit, and I picked that up in the bins. So again, jackets, outerwear, vintage, and also NFL pieces or just sports pieces in general can do really, really well. But a lot of people will pass on this. So those are some things that did really well for me this year. And those were consistent sellers for me as well. Bread and butter for sure. Some of the brands that sold for the most money for me this year I wanted to talk about were Lululemon, Patagonia, and then I also had some Free People pieces in there. And Diane von Furstenberg also was a really good high seller for me. And a lot of those pieces too are more hefty pieces. So like a Patagonia piece that I'm selling for good money is going to be usually like an outerwear piece, a coat or a jacket or a puffer vest or maybe a pullover sweatshirt. And things that are from Free People that sold really well are going to be shoes, or they're going to be dresses, things that are more heft to them. And then also like Lululemon, my biggest sales from them were more outerwear pieces too, like a Rain Rebel jacket or a nice like puffer coat, you know? Those sorts of things are gonna sell really well. So let's look at some of my other highest sales from 2022. I wanted to talk about this sale because this was a really good bolo and I've only found it 3 times now. This first one, it took a while to sell, but it did eventually sell for really good money. And it's this new with tags Black Halo Joaquin wide leg jumpsuit, and that is in a size 2. So this sat for months, but then it did sell for full asking price of $135 in 2022. So we made $108 at the end of the day. This is something I found at a regular Goodwill. It was like, I think $8, maybe it was $10 because it was new with tags. But this was a brand that sells really well, especially for jumpsuits and dresses. I think that's the majority of what they make, but a long piece from them can do really, really well. This was new with tags. Isn't that crazy? So that one sold really, really well for me. And it's a brand that I had not really heard a ton about. So if you don't know Black Halo, I would be on the lookout for that. And then another piece that sold really for a lot of good money this year was this chocolate brown North Face puffer coat. Now this is something I picked up on Facebook Marketplace and I paid I think $20 out of pocket for, but this is something I knew would sell for a lot of money because of trends and because one of the Jenners wore it. So I picked this piece up for about $20 and I sold it for $125. So from that, I made $100 of profit after Poshmark took its fees. So we made about $80 of net profit on that coat, and all I had to do was go pick it up. So definitely being aware of trends was really helpful this year for me, and I found so many amazing pieces. And I want to talk about this brand as well because I've only found it one time. I found it in the bins, and I wanted to stress that I have so many of these high sales from my year that came from the bins. That is where I find so many good pieces. The Gucci dress came from the bins. And then this was a good sale. This MM LaFleur toy dress, size 12. And I found this in the bins and it sold within 2 days for $100. And I paid $1 for it. So we made $79 net profit from this dress. And I had not heard a lot of people talk about it. I don't think I've ever heard of the brand before I found it. MM LaFleur. They make really nice pieces and their dresses can go for good money and they go really quickly. At least the one that I found, it went really quickly and I was really pleased with that brand and with that sale. And then something I've been finding more often this year too has been Veronica Beard, which I thought was so crazy. I never found it before 2022, and then I found, I think, 4 different pieces this year that were Veronica Beard, and those are so expensive. So one of my biggest and best sales this year came from this Veronica Beard Dakota floral dress. It was 100% silk in a size 2, which I thought might make it slow to sell, but it still sold pretty quickly. It sold for $120, which means we made $96 after Poshmark took its fees, and that left us with, I think I paid $8 for the dress. So we made about $88 of net profit on that piece. And I definitely feel like the longer I've been reselling, the further into this year that I've gotten, the better I've gotten at picking items that will sell for good amounts, but also quickly. I still have so many pieces in my closet from when I just started out reselling because I wasn't good at picking pieces yet. I wasn't good at picking pieces that would sell quickly. And as time has gone on, I've gotten better at picking things that people really want and they want it now. So that is great improvement. And hopefully this is helpful to you guys too, that as you guys see me more so now picking up these are pieces that are selling for me much quicker than pieces that I used to pick up are. So we've been talking about some different types of pieces and categories. I mentioned leather pieces in general. I sold so many leather pieces for extremely high amounts of money, and most of them have come from the bins. Leather at the thrift store is always expensive, so I find that it typically ends up at the bins because people aren't gonna pay $50 for it in the thrift store. So like this is another leather piece that I sold. I picked this up in the bins. This is this Revolve Dakota Collective 100% leather black moto jacket. It was in a size medium, and I sold this one on Mercari for $90. I got this in the bins, so $90 is the sale price, and then we made $78.09, which is wonderful, and I paid maybe $1 or $2 for it. So I picked it up in the bins, made $70-something on it, and that's another leather piece that somebody just left because they didn't realize that it was actually from Revolve. So leather pieces, another great category for me this year. And then I want to talk about one more category, and that would be Disney. And I know that a lot of Disney is not worth tons of money, but there are some pieces that are really sought after in the Disney loving community. And one of those categories is spirit jerseys. Now, I've sold 2 different spirit jerseys this year for really good money. And this is the one I want to focus on though. This was a very unique spirit jersey, and some spirit jerseys don't sell for as much. Disney spirit jerseys will literally say on the tag spirit jersey, and they'll have a little tag on the side as well. They have a very unique look compared to most Disney items, and people really, really like collecting the unique pieces for going to Disney World, going to Disneyland, that kind of thing. So this one that I found 2 at the thrift store, and I paid, I think, $4 for this one. This is a blue tie-dyed Bermuda cruise spirit jersey. It was in a size extra large. Both of the ones I found were in a size extra large, so a bigger size is always better. And I ended up selling this for $100 on Mercari. I believe I sold that outright for $100. And we made $86.80. So I made about $84 of profit from a spirit jersey, a Disney spirit jersey. And a lot of people just skip right over the Disney pieces. And I'm not sure exactly why. I personally don't skip over anything as long as it makes me money. So that is another good category. Look at what it looks like and learn the spirit jersey world. I've only been able to find, I think, 3 in total, and this is the one that sold for the most. So that was a really unique find. It had a date on it. It was like a lace up front. I've not seen that before, so it was very interesting. And the interesting things are the ones that are selling. So that was a really cool sale. So that is a look at my 2022 sales. I wanted to talk to you guys about those different categories of things that sold really well for me, and also my pieces that sold for quite a bit of money. I want to share those big sales with you guys and hopefully help you guys with some of those brands that have been selling really well for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below telling me about your biggest sales of the year. I would love to hear what you guys have been selling and learn some new brands myself. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And until the next video, bye.